bribery allegation matter. Really thick out there in the air from comments from anyone saying one or two things about it. Well, this morning we're joined by Professor Ayo Olukotun, who is a professor of political science at Leeds City University. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Well, let's take you through some, because they had waited and still are waiting for maybe the full text of the transaction or conversation between both parties. But it's so far coming in bits and pieces. But first, starting with the audio conversation, or purported audio conversation between both parties, which we aired, are still airing. Let's take you through, including the part 1 and part 2 of it.
Yes, I don't bring it to my house.
Okay, you take it to your house?
No, I don't want to bring it to my house. It's a lot of money.
Yes. So where? Because I'm rushing to the airport now.
Yeah, they're at the airport in the aircraft.
And before they can come over now, unless I send somebody to the airport, I can't. By the time they come, I should be in the chambers. I have a lot of things to do myself.
Is there anybody you trust I can give it to? Or maybe I should postpone my China till tomorrow.
No, it's okay. I would arrange with someone. Let me give you his number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
His number is 080.
Hold on. 080.
36. 51. 33. 55.
What's his name?
Yeah, TJ.
Sorry?
TJ.
TJ.
No, TJ. TJ.
Okay.
Yeah, TJ.
So I'll give him the balance. That's
Okay.
$2.5 million, yeah?
That's right. Just hold on. I'm calling him to be sure he's finished. It wasn't like my brother taking that one. Secondly, please, this thing that we are doing, keep it to yourself. Otherwise, you will make it difficult for us.
Okay. I am now.
You will make it difficult because somebody called me now and said that we said we are going to address it. So please keep it. Yeah, because if it is already out that we are going to do something, when we do it, people will think that we are doing it because we have compromised. And that is something that and if my colleagues get to hear that, I will be able to convince them. So do it yourself.
Okay.
Let it be let it not be like anybody is aware of what is happening.
Okay.
If anybody asks you, simply explain that this thing, from your records, you have all the records, and you have made a case to the committee. You have sent your to the committee. Yeah, it's not for the committee. It's not for the committee to decide what to do. Please keep it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, because the moment it gets out, no, we are going to correct it. When it means we have already. So let it be. I want to spring a surprise on the floor, and that is the only credible way.
God bless you, my brother. I've been trying. Every time I hear
your sector is small. Everybody knows, and people are already saying. Somebody just called and said, what happened? They said Amy has gotten away around you guys, and he has already.
That is what we do. But let me also tell you.
No, I'm saying this. No, I'm saying it because this is what I had.
But my brother, let me also tell you one thing. You know me as
it doesn't have. It doesn't. I know.
So people just get up. People is that.
Yeah, don't make it difficult. Just whoever, no, I didn't do this. I'm sure it must have been a mistake from the committee, but I've sent a letter to set the record right.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, brother.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you. Right.
What I see unfolding today through playing of a second edition or part 2 is like what we see in Shakespearean plays, where you say act 1, part 1, scene 2. I would describe the entire unfolding melodrama as Baba, Salas, Alawada, Keri, histrionics, and comedy. This is nothing short of comedy. We are treating a serious national issue that involves mega money, that involves integrity, that involves morals and ethos, that involves the direction of our democratic experimentation, that involves the doctrine of separation of power between the three arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. A serious matter that drove out many Nigerians to demonstrate in January this year over this oil subsidy brouhaha. We are talking of a serious matter that concerns that has to do with democracy of the stomach, of the common man. And then we are reducing it to what William Shakespeare in one of his plays we call a tale told by an idiot.
Okay, well, there you have it, Prof. I mean, this is just going round and round and round, such that it was said that was not his voice, and it goes on and on. But you've been following this matter. What's your perspective?
Well, I think, like the lawyer said, of course, it's coming from the point of view of an interested person in the matter, but he has a point in saying that there are elements of tragedy and farce in all of this. You remember Marx's famous statement about history coming first as tragedy and then later as farce, you know. And both of them, of course, are extremely sad, you know. The major play or the major plot ought to be restated, and that is the probe, long-running probe conducted by the House of Representatives, which made several, in some sense, fundamental recommendations about how to revamp the oil sector and to build the institutions that control that sector in such a way that the kind of large-scale fraud and pillage of public funds that we saw will not repeat itself. That's a major plot. Comes in a minor plot that in the process of doing their job, the House or the chairman of that committee compromised himself by taking a bribe. Now the arguments, of course, go back and forth. Was it a setup by some elements in order to whittle down the importance of that probe and the recommendations? Was it just another manifestation of the widespread propensity for larceny and pillage of public funds that we have among the political class? So those arguments go back and forth. But you know, I think the public interest in this should be restated. One, that Nigeria, as an oil-producing country, is stranded in a mosquito-less forest of ghosts. Because whereas the state-owned oil companies in other countries, which, by the way, do not import oil that we do, we are perhaps the only country that who produces oil and also imports oil. But more importantly, go and look at the career, the profile of these state oil companies. You know, Brazil's Petrobras, which has been cited in Fortunes, you know, one of the richest companies in the world. There's another one in Malaysia, that's Aramco in Saudi Arabia. Go and look at their profile and look at the kind of money that they make for their country and how this money is pumped into development purposes and how much is stolen, is pilfered, you know, from the public kitty by those who have control of that system. You know, and you can't but just, I remember one of our professors, Richard Joseph, who was talking about Nigeria some years back and just started shedding tears. And he was saying Nigeria does not have to be like this. So what you see, you are confronted by a monumental waste of human and material resources by a country that whose elite continues to feed upon it and is actually feeding upon it like parasites that are bent on killing its victim.
Okay, but link this because, I mean, much as public interest, I mean, the public out there want this matter to be over and done with, and those who are found guilty should face the music. But it looks as though from the way things are coming across, they're going around in circles. And the question they seem to be asking, tweeting this morning is, I mean, if Representative Lawan said he collected money, but he didn't collect bribe, are they now denying that money was not given or was not collected for him to demand release A, B, C, D, or E? And here we are also asking, what's going on with the police? And then reports say police has handed over to ICPC. So,
oh yes, well, you know, people can create theater in order to amuse and titillate people for what are fundamental problems. I mean, this, for me, some element of this is diversionary. We are so, like he said, farce means that you create some kind of theater something that ought to generate serious concern among people. It's now been turned into an elaborate, a long playing joke and comedy of sorts. And the allegations go back and forth. Of course, we know that in Nigeria, big fishes hardly get caught in the net of anti-corruption. And even the whole anti-corruption itself appears to be a joke, It's a joke to the extent that it doesn't catch big fishes, or it hardly does so. The small fries are caught. We have rhetorical things in this country, rhetorical programs. Transformation is often mouthed, but there's no action to show we are transforming. I've raised the issue in one of my writings in the newspapers. I said, transforming from what to what? There's no definition. So many concepts are hanging out there airily. They're not giving any concrete shape. All of this, to an extent, at one level amusing, at another level profoundly sad. That time is going, time is being frittered away. Those who are supposed to take charge of the country's affairs are not doing so. They are more interested in what I call slates of hand. For me, these are political slates of hand. To create diversions from very serious and fundamental issues. What has been done? What has been done about? In the first instance, why was it that it was the House of Rep that was even doing the probe? Why not the executive? Because we know that it is the executive that has the mandate to enforce. That's why it's called an executive. It executes. Okay, the House of Reps only has, if you like, although it has oversight, but it's an advisory body. It cannot carry out its will. So, in the first instance, I think it is even sad, given what this government has stated about its desire to fight corruption, to make changes, to build institutions. We have so many promises that it is not the executive that has driven this process. It is the House that has driven it thus far. Don't forget what was said by the Attorney General, that even the probe is only advisory, it's only hortatory, if you like, and has no force in law. So even from the outset, there was attempt to debunk the probe, there was attempt to undermine it by those who are supposed to implement its recommendations. So a country that wastes its time, stranded, as I said, in a mosquito-less forest of demons, not serious about reform, not serious about moving forward, not even seeing the handwriting on the wall. Because it isn't that time is going, things are going from bad to worse.
What's the handwriting you see on the wall?
Well, historically, we know that unless there are reformist elements within a particular ruling class, unless reformist elements come, in order to clean up a system, we know that system can be undermined at a very fundamental level. Take, for instance, if I go to history, the British ruling class, when the French Revolution occurred, they did not want a French Revolution to occur in Britain. And so what they did was to carry out reforms of the British system in order to preempt a revolution French style occurring in Britain. Some leaders like Bismarck in Germany, it was said of him, the father of the modern German nation, that he stole the thunder of the socialists because he initiated a far-reaching program of reforms, of social welfare legislation, that preempted socialism from coming into Germany. So what we see all historically, and even continuing in the contemporary times, look at the Asian Tigers, serious-minded ruling class. They reform a system, they innovate, they build institutions in order to forestall systemic challenges, which, as the Yorubas say, they said, Orunjabo, that is, if the heavens are falling, it's falling on everybody. Am I talking in parables?
No. I would think that even if you are, they sound pretty clear. The thing is, let's also try to isolate. Will it not also be important that, this accusation of bribery is also very important, considering the multitude of accusations that are also being investigated, that if those who are sent to try and clean up a system are also being pointed, or accusing fingers are also being pointed at them, who is clean enough to actually do these reforms that we're looking for?
Oh yes, you have a point, and so we have a system in deep, where the Americans say deep shit. I mean, it means the country is in deep shit. So to borrow that expression, it means that a systemic crisis. Everybody is compromised. Those who set out to reform putatively end up in the same in the same miasma which they set out to clean. So all of this is a parable of a ruling class that has lost its mission, or that has no mission in the first instance. You know, and don't forget that many people are even saying that what is needed in Nigeria is a thorough purge, a thorough cleanup of the system. So my proposal is, can the ruling class reform itself and thereby stave off a fundamental challenge to the system? We saw what happened, what they called the so-called Arab Spring, that happened very recently. We see challenges to systems, you know. We see social tornadoes coming from below, you know. So the proposal remains is for the ruling class to clean itself. I'm not justifying, I'm not undermining. If anybody is known to have compromised himself, whether it's Farouk Lawan, Otedola, or whoever, those people should be brought to book. You know.
Because I think this different perspective you just brought up this morning is quite key here. Because if you look at it, almost everyone enmeshed in this whole scandal is almost like a friend of the ruling class or in the ruling party. So what should the party be doing if we are saying that maybe majority of those in the National Assembly who are of the ruling PDP have not even done the needful, and you also say the executive arm should have taken the bulls by the horn at the instance? What should they be doing to tell Nigerians that truly they are all out in the fight against corruption?
Yes, what they should be doing is learning the lessons of the fuel subsidy protest.
Was there any lesson there?
There were lessons, there were demands made on the system to clean up itself, because what happened is that the system ran into trouble because it could not continue on its own terms. Its own terms, of course, are that of a prebendal and money-stealing elite. You know, that a collision between state officials and the business class, those who have access, exploit that access to make the country. And so of course, the game came to an end, it unraveled, and so they tried to push the cost on the people, on the citizens, you know, who resisted stoutly. I was one of those who wrote at the time and said, this is nonsense, you know, that an oil-producing country should be brought so low to this pass. You know, look at the countries from where we import oil. Venezuela is one of them. Why is it that we can't fix our refineries? I mean, must Nigeria have been, was it necessary for us to be brought to this pass? And so the system was unraveling on its own terms. You couldn't continue to function on its own terms. Now you push the burden on the poor people, on the long-suffering poor people who already, you know, were approaching death. I mean, I tell you, since this increase in oil price, you know, many people have just given up. They've lost the battle quietly. You know, not everybody has the opportunity to come to Channels TV to express their woes. But the woes out there are palpable for those who care to see. Of course, some don't care to see. Some tell us all is well. You know, all is well, all will be well. You know, those kind of anesthetizing slogans. You know.
But again, if you even go to history, do we even learn from history? Because if you say we should be at least taking the cue from what happened in the fuel subsidy protest, and from the way this is going, and people are already asking, what is going to happen to the fuel subsidy probe reports, both by the House of Representatives and the one expected from the Senate? And so, will they eventually prosecute all those who are found guilty? And now, if all of these denials are making the rounds of, well, because initially it was said, I mean, if you say he collected money but not bribe, investigation is neither here nor there, we haven't heard anything. Can it get to that part where people will be frustrated about it and perhaps make a statement either by demonstration or protest? Do you see that happening?
Oh yes. Well, of course, you know about making peaceful change impossible. All of these for me are shenanigans. You know, these are games that these are, to me, are power games. You know, I don't know whether Lawan was set up or wasn't set up, but certainly there was an attempt. Isn't it strange, for instance, that Otedola, a businessman, usually reticent, you know, businessmen are usually reticent, you know, is involved in this whole drama, this whole saga in which he's making statements. Is he himself a reformer? Is Otedola a reformer? But he's now cast in the role of a reformer, you know. I think this is a joke, really, you know. All of this is a joke. We are trivializing the issues. We are turning them into comedy. Issues that are serious and that touch the welfare of people, a nation that is stranded, that is not harnessing its opportunities for development, you know, and yet wants to be seen as a big nation. We talk big, we attend all these world fora, make pompous statements, big brother and all of that. But but everybody knows that the emperor has no clothes on.
Prof, is it possible for us to, you know, for a moment, can we just consider the content of the conversation? I mean, you've heard the conversation itself. You heard the part 1, you've heard the part 2. What does it tell you? I mean, when this scandal broke, whether or not we like it, this is the first time that we're getting, say, things that sound like concrete evidence that there was even any meeting between the two of them in the very first instance. I mean, aside what we've read in the papers, which a host of people can always come out to deny. Even this one that we have that is audio recording is already been denied and, you know, said that it could be doctored. But what does it tell you? Assuming it is true, what does it tell you in your mind about the scandal?
Well, it confirms. You see, I'm interested, if you like, well, necessarily as a scholar, maybe a theorist also. I'm interested in fundamental issues, in systemic analysis. You know, because there have been so many scandals. I mean, before you know it, this scandal will blow over, quote unquote, and that scandal will erupt. The pension scandal is still long running. There have been so many scandals. Nobody has resigned. Nobody has been indicted. You know, and you know, in Nigeria we don't have a culture of resignation. One would have thought that even after the oil subsidy, you know, controversy, an earthquake indeed, that some ministers will have resigned. But nobody has resigned. The president came to say that he endorses all his ministers, that they are doing very well, he's happy with them and all of that. Whereas Nigerians are saying that if anybody presided, you know, where the book ought to have stopped at the table of people who are presiding over this monumental fraud and pillage of public funds, and nobody had the shame to resign. In England, the chairman of Barclays resigned, you know, recently. You know, there's an ongoing controversy in Britain and the British banks, you know, about fraud. And
the government took charge. They came up and spoke up about it.
Exactly, because they know that it was going to undermine the system and confidence in British banks. So when there's a challenge of that nature, you know, government takes charge, somebody takes charge, there's presidential action, you know, not dethrone, not all these shenanigans, you know, to postpone, to deter, you know, so that nothing comes out of it eventually and the people are taken in.
In other words, you won't be surprised if at the end of the day, this investigation or this matter takes like forever.
Oh, of course, but that's in the Nigerian character. We've had many probes, and then you have probe of probes, and then you have to probe those who are probing others and all of that. So it's a charade.
You know, Prof, I think somehow you have... Are you choosing not to answer that particular question as to what the conversation tells or doesn't tell you?
Well, yes, because I'm intervening in that a bit cautiously and guardedly because there are two sides to the matter. We've had a conversation. It appears to support, on the face of it, the allegation that a bribe was taken. And from what we know of the House of Representatives, it will not be surprising if this is just one of their willing dealing exercises or antics. I mean, bribes have been taken, huge bribes have been taken. You know, the third term project, so many bribes have been taken. Bribes have even become systemic, that they've been routinized. The taking of bribes is no longer a one-off affair. It's been routinized in the system, and bribes are taken regularly, and there are evidence have been produced. So this is not the first time. In fact, people are no longer shocked. You know, these revelations no longer shock anybody, because before you have time to even consider what's going on, and that one, which is higher, which is even bigger than the last one, has broken out. So, you know, from what we heard from the tapes, it appears to confirm the allegation that a bribe was taken. Even the man himself has not been straightforward. At first, he said he took money. He didn't take. He said he didn't take money. Later, he came around to say he took money.
Then he took money, didn't take bribe.
But yeah, then later he took money, didn't take bribe. You know, all of this. But do they know that people are watching all of this? Do they think, even the international community, are we not ashamed of ourselves? These are lawmakers.
These are lawmakers. That is why some people have even tried to pass a vote of no confidence on the entire House. But again, we listened to that tape, and from that particular statement where he said he was going to spring a surprise in the floor of the House, isn't that a clearance for the other members of the House to show that they were not in the know as to what exactly transpired? If he said he was going to spring a surprise, it means that he was the only one, maybe perhaps one other person, and not the entire House that was enmeshed in this corruption?
Yeah, conceivably. Whether the bribe was taken by one person on behalf of other people, or whether it was taken by just one person for his own personal appropriation. I mean, all these are moot points. What is important is a bribe appears to have been taken, yes, in order to suborn or to divert justice as it affects a particular company.
So what do you make of yesterday's hearing, the ethics committee that wanted to sit, and Femi Otedola did say, well, he would only speak in the public and not in the confines of the rooms of that particular meeting. Would you subscribe that now that everything is in the open, now we even have audio and we are waiting a video, should we also say every meeting or discussion as that will unravel the true state of this particular transaction be made public?
That will help for what it's worth. For what it's worth, I think it should be made public. The more we know about it, the better. People should be letting, voyeuristically, letting into the privacies of these looters, and those who steal the country blind, whether they're in the executive or they're in the legislature or even in the judiciary. It will help. At least the public is then able to, because when you're fighting corruption, that's what called horizontal accountability, which is the efforts of the state to reform itself, institutions that are supposed to correct and to reform the state from within. Then you have vertical accountability. That's where you and I come in. Channels is doing a good job here. Civil society, activists and all of that, the media, the people like us in academia, So, and both of these are important. None of them should function independently. The pity, of course, that I find in Nigeria is that, and this will show you how dysfunctional the system is. Why is it that it's so easy for people to steal and get away with it? Are there no structures to check? These things come like surprises, like ambushes to the public. Oh, somebody has stolen billions of naira. Somebody has done this, and we are engrossed with it for a while. What has happened to the structures that are supposed to check these things? Are there no internal mechanisms to prevent these things from happening? Because all of this is wisdom after the event. Do we know how much is being stolen right now? Every day scams, different scams bust open. And only God knows what the next scam will be.